All right. Welcome once again to Hearthcenter. This is week 9. We got a great show for you tonight. We have the return of a couple of people we haven't seen in a little while. We're going to start off up at the very top. He's back. It's the hard carry. It's Diamond. How you doing, Diamond?
Hey, I'm back. Thanks for having me, Ron. Got a good old reading week. Got to hang out with the gang again.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, for every now and then, you get a little break, get to be on
Yeah,
Hearth Center, then it's back to the studying. Got
yeah.
it. Priorities, it's good.
Mhm.
And beneath Diamond, we have in total darkness right now. Uh, it is the OG of THL, our longest running player and participator. It is THL Lemur. How you doing, Lemur?
Greetings, my friends.
Nice. Ominous. I like it. And next up, of course, there is myself, as always, Ronnie, Monday and Tuesday now, because apparently I just have made a home on Around the Saloon as well on Mondays. Although, I just show up to get beat. Up in the top right, we have joining us the newest Saloon member to upset me in the finals this season. It's MartyB. How you doing, Marty?
I'm doing really good. I appreciate the sportsmanship there, Ron. It's been really fun doing these Mondays and Tuesdays. I could get used to it.
Nice. Love to hear it. Well, I'm sure Around the Saloon would be thrilled to have you on as long as you can maintain that title. Um, and Mako's always looking for people in the rotation, so always good. And finally, last but not least, to our bottom right, the man with the best GIF in all of THL. It is, of course, the one and only Dr. LotusKnight. How you doing, Lotus?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here as always. This is really fun Tuesday.
Oh yeah. We get to just dive into a whole lot of Hearthstone related content. There is quite a bit of stuff to cover. We still have 4 series ongoing and 1 series in playoffs right now. So, without further ado, we are going to start off with our players of the week. We've got a new graphic for you on the screen this week for our players of the week. So we're going to run down the list and we're going to start off with Hero. Lemur, can you tell me who was our Hero player of the week this week?
This week's hero player of the week goes to Wash in the Wind, who picked up a key 3-0 sweep in Tan Pam Surf Slam 16-10 win over Dad Legend. Wash in the Wind not only washed away a 119-point PR deficit to Yellow Dart, but also may have found the momentum to help turn around a 1-5 start to the season, picking up his second win and keeping his team in the playoff hunt in the process. His 4-point swing helped close the gap between TPSS and their division rivals and puts them within striking distance of a wildcard spot heading into the final week. Brought to you by Dr. BOMD.
Nice. All right. Congratulations to Wash in the Wind. Big win there in Hero. Moving on to our Legacy player of the week, LotusKnight. Can you tell me who was player of the week for Legacy?
Sure. Bazdink brought us the legacy player of the week in the Rotted Zombie, who had the anchor role in his first legacy playoff appearance. The entire season on the line in Game 5, he came away victorious, advancing FTL to the round of 8. Does not get any more sweat inducing than that. I don't think his rotting flesh sweats, so maybe it was easy for him to remain cool and in command. Either way, the zombie knows how to win and is now doing it in Standard 2.
Nice. Well written up there. I love the zombie reference. Next up, we have our player of the week for Wild. Marty B, can you tell me who was our Wild player of the week this last week?
Well, let me tell you, Haran, Keith Numbers showed NA Grandmaster Rami94 his extreme proficiency in Wild in a 5-game series that forced their teams into a tie. Looks like the numbers added up in Keith's favor this week against a formidable opponent. Thank you, Itachi, for that.
Nice, nice. Yeah, always impressive taking down GM, even though, he's not a GM in Wild because there is no Wild GM. Impressive player nonetheless. Impressive victory by Keith Numbers. And finally, for pro, Diamond, can you tell me who was our pro player of the week? I think you know this player well. I'm not sure. Why don't you go ahead and
Well,
tell
I'm gonna read and find out. All right,
me?
for the boys, Hyper Ison, a clash of titans in a battle for who would reign supreme in the Pro Series Black Conference. After 4 closely contested matches, it was still anyone's game. But my boy, Super Chicken, was the one who stayed cool under pressure, locking up a decisive 3-1 victory over Cool Kid 2001 to swing the week in favor of For the Boys. 15-12 and kept the undefeated season alive. And that was brought to you by our lovely host.
Yeah, I could have read it myself,
Good
but
job,
you
Chicken.
know, I wanted you to talk up your teammate.
Talk up my
So
boy Chicken. Oh, clutched it so good.
yeah, really impressive for the boys, staying undefeated. If I'm correct, that means every single one of Diamond's teams so far this season has not lost a game in THL. That is an absurd streak right now.
Yep. Hopefully it stays that way.
With that, that wraps up our players of the week this last week, and it is time to dive into the series themselves. We're going to put the Hero Meta Report on the screen. This is the next to last week of Hero that we are going to review. So let's get that up here. And as always, take it with a grain of salt. Actually, all the meta reports have been reporting somewhat awkwardly lately. But what we can, of course, tell you is Druid, Paladin, Rogue, Warrior being the most frequently brought lineup, although it didn't look like it did all that well. And Paladin bans. Oh my goodness, Paladin bans. Just 36 bans for Paladin. Barely any bans for anything else in Hero so far. You look at the overall, there's still a holdover from week 1 when Demon Hunter was not nerfed yet, and then you had the holdover from the Shaman meta before Shaman was nerfed. Rogue was getting a little bit here and there. Warrior's always been strong, and Paladin very much on the rise in bans. So we can see the enemy right now appears to be Ramp Paladin, I would assume. What are we making of this meta here, guys?
I mean, first and foremost, people just don't like playing against Rain Paladin. It feels bad. It feels bad to beat. It feels bad to lose to. It's one of those decks that just like you either lose on turn 4 and you're tilted, or you beat them and you're tilted that they didn't get their combo and you just like beat them for free. It's a weird deck. It feels really, really bad to play against. So it makes sense to me that there's so many bans for it this week. Something that caught me by surprise, but I think a lot of people were predicting, is that Druid didn't perform very well compared to what a lot of people thought that it was going to perform. If we're looking at an actual aggregated win rate, it is a very, very low aggregated win rate over the course of the season and last week. But last week specifically chalking at a 37.14% win rate. It definitely deserves that tier 2 status that we're seeing it at in a lot of those different websites for Hearthstone statistics.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, Paladin eating up a ton of bans, but its win rate, not really all that great. People clearly had a plan for Paladin if they did leave it up.
I'm going to talk a bit more about this later. But Paladin is one of those classes where everyone's afraid of Ramp Paladin because of the cheese it has. But it's not as strong as some people might think in a Conquest lineup. In Hero, I should say, because of the nature of the RNG. So it's really interesting to see, like, people aren't scamming as often as they think. And there's also the fact that there's other Paladin archetypes that we're not taking into consideration. There's also Leumer Paladin, okay, with Penflingers, and there's even Pure Paladin. And those decks are still very good on their own. Okay,
Those
so we
decks
don't.
are also very underrated right now.
Yeah, that is a very good point. There is not just one Paladin archetype, but there is an enemy number 1 Paladin archetype. The other ones maybe getting a little bit overlooked in the tyranny of Ramp Paladin, but they are still quite good.
Absolutely. Now, what does surprise me the most, though, is the lack of mage last week.
Yeah, I don't know if this is correct.
Mage is one of those classes that's kind of really going through a lot of developments right now. We're seeing Secret Mage, we're seeing Spell Damage, Burn Mage. We're even seeing Highlander Mage starting to come out of the woodworks now. And those decks do have some pretty good matchups, and there's a lot of flexibility among them. So
Yeah, this
it's
is
a bit
probably
surprising
where
to
we
see
hit
only
the
three.
roadblock on our meta report in like
Yeah,
how deep we can dive into it, because for
there's-
multiple weeks the report on the website doesn't seem to be reporting fully accurately for all the classes.
I see. So
yeah, pretty sure Mage is incorrect.
Yeah,
There's a lot more.
Mage being 3 games and 1 ban, probably not what happened. But as we always mentioned with these meta reports, take them with a grain of salt. And with that, we can move on to the recap of your Orange Conference. Gonna put this one right up on the screen here. And interestingly enough, ATL still on top, but only just barely. It actually came down to the final game between Risen and Scritch in the ATL matchup. If Risen did not get that victory, we would have had a new top team and a new graphic in the top left with Tonk, if you were corny, taking the lead. But ATL doing what they've done all season and maintaining that top spot in orange. They may get past finally, but I think we've seen pretty clearly ATL and Tonk are the far and away number 1 and 2 that are making playoffs from Orange. Then we've got a very interesting race for Agungan Among and Servants of Yogg-Saron, for who might be able to claim the at-large bids. Maybe even both of them could. But very much in the running. Dark Side of Cthulhu. I don't know if it's certainty, but it doesn't seem very mathematically
I
likely that
believe it
this
is
team is in.
mathematically
Okay, yeah, like
eliminated,
it's
if I
definite they're
remember
out.
correctly. Yeah.
But yeah, let's dive right into the matches. So we're gonna start with ATL versus Agungan Among. And Leumer, can you break this down for me? What happened here?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple big things to point out here. ATL, we were expecting, at least I was expecting coming into this week, that they were going to just wipe the floor with Agungas Asamong, to be completely honest with you. And that is not what happened. A 17-8 score with Agungan Us Among. Dardar Binks specifically taking it 3-0 in the 1 over Blue Spartan. Very, very, very impressive. And then I'm gonna go back to it. Scritch, you got carried, my boy, this week. 0-7 record. I know you're a fantastic Hearthstone player, and that 0-7 record does not show that to me, even though I know that you're better than that. But still, taking home 4 out of 5 games on the side of Gungan Among is just insane, especially when you're going against the top team in your conference.
Absolutely. And yeah, Diamond, you pointed out in chat, it is actually true. ATL started 5-0 and is on a 3-game losing streak here. So it's been a long backslide since they've kind of locked up that top spot seemingly for good way early in the season when they were on an absolutely dominant tear. There have been a few nerfs that have come in. We've seen metas shift a little bit over the course of this hero season, and maybe this meta just isn't quite as comfortable for the members of ATL. We also can't overlook Brushy Tuna, 6-1, the hard carry, who is no longer on ATL because he had other things he had to do. I'm sure they'll be fine with Nice Jewish Owl as a sub, but he's already lost as many times as Brushy Tuna did all season to that point, so who knows? But ATL, no fear of missing playoffs at the very least. They've done more than enough to secure their spot. Next match here, we've got Tonk, if you were corny, versus Dark Side of Cthulhu. And Tonk has kind of been on the opposite as ATL lately. They've just been on a tear winning. They started a little bit shaky. They've only lost 1 game all season, though. They were winning kind of by smaller margins, and then they just kind of started snowballing, it seems. Diamond, can you take me through this one here? Tonk, if you're corny versus Darkside. This was also lopsided. Another 17-8.
Yeah, very interesting as well. Every match was a 3-1. Only loss for Tonk was 9. I know some of the guys on here, and yeah, they have been on a tear. I think they've just turned it up recently, and they're trying to lock it up. So I think they'll hold strong for the end of the season, but kind of nice to see. At the beginning, they're really hyped up. They kind of went below in their expectations, and now they're, I think, rising up to what they're predicted to be.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So Orange Conference should be mostly settled, but we've got a very interesting race between Agua and Servants of Yogg-Saron to see what will happen. Marty, I would have had you break down Servants for me, but they were on a bye this week. It's going to be exciting to see if your team can maneuver their way into playoffs coming into the next week.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
With that, we will move on to purple. Let's get purple up on the screen, and no change in the number one spot here. Vote of some confidence, wire to wire. We had the cheat code. We had Diamond on our team, and everybody knows in THL this season, if you have Diamond around your team at all, you just don't lose for like the whole season. It's
Very
great. So apparently that's what happened here. We have another 17-8 score, which is kind of weird that Hero is leading off 17-8 in 3 consecutive games. Um, since you were a part of this victory, Diamond, I'm just going to come right back to you here. Talk to me about Vote of Some Confidence versus Feet of Cthulhu.
For sure. Yeah, a big win. You know, our hat got a sweep over pond. You and Heat Shock Ron got the 3-1s. And I got a 3-2 over Shu. I know we were talking during the match. We were like, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna. I think if people have seen, Shu said he's taking a break from THL. So I was like talking to him, like, oh hey, I hope you enjoy your time. He's like, yeah, but I'm still gonna take All Stars from you. Don't you worry, Diamond. I'm like, oh no. Yeah, and
Nice.
then Jim Flo's getting a second loss as well this season. So I think maybe Feet have a chance for playoffs. I'm not really sure on that aspect, but
I
Vote is
think
locked.
probably like at least the final match, not getting a second victory in the week might have done them in. Um, I don't know if they're mathematically eliminated. Maybe there's a chance with like a 23-point week and some crazy stuff happening, but I'm pretty sure they are out of it.
And as
Also,
well,
fair and balanced the same.
mm, also a point that was brought by our hat in our server is I think as long as Tonk doesn't 23-0, Vote of Some Confidence will be the 1 seed going into Hero playoffs, which is
Ah,
just
true, yeah. The 150-point total. You love to see it, at least
really do.
for us teammates. But before we brag about our team anymore, we have the other teams in Purple Conference that are still very much in contention. Dad Legend holding strong for the second spot, likely to be the number 2 team in Purple that will get the guaranteed bid to playoffs. Although Tan Pam Surf Slam has been starting to pick up some real momentum in recent weeks and got a huge victory over Dad Legend. LotusKnight, this one was fairly close, 16-10, but take me through what happened in this match between these two teams.
This was a really good match. Both teams brought their best. I at least brought my best. I think it was a really tight match. We started with, if I'm not mistaken, Icicles or Icicles was the first one to beat Sharmo, 3-2. And then I looked, and we had actually lost 2 matches in Dart and Sharkbait. And we tried to catch it up. Starlax tried to win. I got so close. My match with JR was really good. Some really interesting turns. Might have had 2 Alluras with coin, but one of them unfortunately drew both of his tip to scales. So that's not a good thing. If you're going for Allura, do not have 2 tips the scales in your hand. That's a pro tip for you.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, what are you gonna do? But
So yeah, TPSS clutches the win, 16-10, which is really important if they want to have a chance at making playoffs. They're in a good position, and they have a good match this week if that's their goal.
yeah, we've got, of course, as always, Tavern Talk follows this show Wednesdays at 9 p.m., our preview show for the upcoming week, and they will be breaking down the Hero playoff race. I'm sure you'll get a good look if you tune in at what we can expect from the final week of Hero as these teams race to the finish. Right now, it looks like Dad Legend just needs to hang on to keep that spot. But if Tan Pams can get enough points, either Dad Legend has a lower point scoring week and Tan Pams has a high scoring week, or both teams do well and Tan Pams maybe squeaks their way in ahead of other teams for the at large bid. But both of these teams very much alive. And with that, we're going to move on to Teal Conference, where it seems like almost every single team has a chance to make playoffs, except for, sadly, Leumer, I got to talk to you about this, buddy. We'll get to F2L Black and transfer students. I'll have you break that down for me in a moment. But you were calling the transfer students running the table, but it just looks like it finally fizzled out. I think it's technically over at this point.
I'm so sorry. Mathematics mean nothing to me, and they don't mean anything else to the people on the transfer students either.
Nice.
I'd just like to point out that we still have the ultimate goal of ruining the playoff chances of every single opponent we face for the rest of the season.
You love to see
It
it.
will happen. Titans will fall. Just wait and see.
All 1 week remaining. Nice.
Yeah.
Do you know who your opponent is, by the way?
Absolutely, I do. They're
I see.
fresh 109 points. That's where they're staying.
Amazing. Well, what we have looking at Teal Conference, no pros here, and Dab on him are now your new tied conference leader. Ask HS had been holding that top spot for quite a while, but they do finally drop out of that top spot here on their bye week. NPH, though, has a bye in the final week. Maybe pretty tough for them to hold on with 109 with so many teams so close behind. Dab on him, of course, tied with 109, and they are actually playing in this upcoming week. Although I guess maybe Lemur's saying that they're not going to get any more. I'm going to doubt that one a little bit and say Dab on him probably is going to be making it as the top team in Teal. But it's going to be a very interesting one between Ask HS and F2L, and if we might see an at-large, whether 109 is enough to get the at-large bid for NPH, whether Ask HS or F2L can both kind of maneuver their way in. We're going to start off, though, by breaking down Dab on 'em versus No Pros here. Marty, can you talk to me about this match and tell me what happened between these two teams? This was a fight for first.
Yeah, so No Pros here has an extra week on everyone else, and I think that's very important. They're going into their bye. So this 10-14 win puts them at 109 points. Skittles and PWE, the top two seeds, falling to Based Inc. and Boozosaurus. You hate to see it if you're No Pros here. You really need your top two seeds to get at least one win. Fortunately, Disco got a win over Duin through other
Looks
means.
like a DQ, probably.
Through other means.
Yeah.
And the bottom two seeds in Pascal and Quaz just came through over Astral Frog and Buse. So that's really what brought No Pros here over the top. Will it be enough to get them to the playoffs? I don't know. It'll be hard to say. But they did their best, and they're at least finishing the season even.
Yeah, I mean, you can't complain too much with a 4-4 record and ending the conference or ending your season at the top of the conference, at least when you're done with games. But there is one more week to be played, and they could just be passed by a bunch of teams. We'll see if it's enough. Dab on them certainly picking up a good amount of points, even in the loss, that should leverage them into playoff contention. And next up, we have F2L Black versus transfer students. So just because I like to pick on you, Leumer, talk to me about what happened that killed your team's chances here. It was close, 15-11. You guys almost got there.
Yeah, it was really, really close. We had a very, very good series against F2L Black. Unfortunately, we just couldn't take it home. I will say that we'll see myself and Rotted Zombie pop up later in the legacy discussion as well. We had two series against one another this week. We played each other in both of them. I won the Hero Exchange and he won the Legacy Exchange, which ended up being the one that mattered. However, I will say that I'm proud of transitions this week. Proud of how we played. Chaser's been on a complete tear. Started 0-4 and is now 3-4 on the season. So he's looking to get back to 500 next week. Bach and Jester just had really, really rough seasons, and that's hurt a little bit overall. But G Kick and the rest of the team just couldn't ever win on the same weeks, and that ended up being our downfall here as well.
Fair enough. Yeah, F2L Black putting in a very strong performance. I think we shouldn't undersell just how good this team is, and
Oh, yeah.
they seemed so behind in points for so long because their buys happened at such awkward times. So they were the only team in Teal that had no buy through basically the back half of the season because it came like right at the beginning of the back half. So they've been kind of just making up ground in total points, but their points per week were always strong. It was something that when we looked at it kind of critically, it seemed like, okay, F2L is probably going to make a push for playoffs. Props to transfer students and good captaining, praising your team at the end. You love to hear it. But F2L just a little bit too much to overcome, it looked like. And they are working their way into what seems to be a likely playoff bid. It'll be very interesting to keep an eye on what happens next week. And of course, we'll bring you all that action next Tuesday.
Absolutely.
Any last things to say about the Hero series before we move on to what will be our second to last player power rankings for Hero?
Undefeated NPH makes playoffs, doesn't win. Dead even NPH.
Dead
We'll
even
see.
wins title. Nice.
Wins title, question mark?
Yeah, squeaks into playoffs, wins title. Could happen. All right, but let's get the player power rankings up on the screen. So we are going to start off, as always, it seems. Yep, spam those rigged. You got to spam the rigged. It's always rigged. Dante's doing something weird behind the scenes. But we at least have Turtle in the lead, as always. 7-0, 21-4, 39 PAR, just dominating every game. Mr. Python close behind, extremely strong 7-0 record. We've got Isocles at 6-1 in the 3 spot. Hockey Boys at 6-1 in the 4. RoboCats moving his way up this list at 6-1 in the 5. We've got Brushy Tuna at 6-1. Risen, his teammate, at 7 at 6-2, and a whole bunch of purple to close it out. Actually, all on the same team. Number 8, Heat Shock, 6-2. Number 9, Jimfalo, 6-2. And number 10, yours truly, that's RonMexico at 6-2. That rounds out your top 10 in Hero Player Power Rankings. And of course, as always, we have our honorable mentions. Boozosaurus moving on up with a very strong season, now sitting at 5-1. Ridiculous Hat close behind at 5-3. Diamond making the list. Hey, we got all of Vote of Some Confidence on this page. Nice. Diamond 5-3 in honorable mentions. Dr. BOMD at 5-2. And lastly, we close out honorable mentions with Neji Boston at 5-2.
Talk about rigged, am I right?
So rigged. So
The
rigged.
entire-
Much more
There's
deserving
gotta be
players
rigged.
being kept off this list. It's
So rigged, it's
unconscionable.
insane. Yeah.
If I can just say one thing, is that because Dante's algorithm is awful, this list does tend to give an advantage to people who have already played 8 games. So expect a fairly different result as some of the players get their last match.
Yeah, like I'm sitting at number 10. There's no way I hold that spot with no game to play next week. Probably the same for Hat and Diamond getting bounced from honorable mentions because they are not playing next week and a bunch of other players are. But hey, we enjoy the spot while we have it.
One of us will make it honorable mentions. We gotta.
We put our faith in Heat Shock ending in the top 10. But there you have it. Congratulations to all of these players for making player power rankings. As I usually say, if you want to make it on this list, just keep winning. But that might not be true either. It's rigged. Well, what can you say? Just get better PAR. Easy. And with that, we will move on to the Wild series. We're going to start with the Wild meta breakdown here. Mage, Priest, Rogue, Warlock, the top brought lineup. Kind of had a middling performance, but definitely a whole lot better than Mage, Paladin, Priest, Rogue, which looked very rough. As always, we're seeing Mage and Priest bans dominating the format, and a little bit of Warlock and Warrior kind of bringing up behind there. As always, and when I have Marty on the show, I'll turn it over to Marty to talk to us a little bit about what we're seeing in this wild meta. Provided Marty is available to talk. I think he
He's
actually had to
muted.
leave for a second.
Hello,
Oh, there you are.
I am unmuted now. Okay, we are good. Okay, so as usual, we have Mage, the most popular class to bring by far, with 54 brings. Second place, we have Priest with 50. Mage and Priest are pretty different though in how their brings are split though. Because Mage, you have Secret Mage, which is by far the most popular archetype. But after Mage, there's just a ton of different, or sorry, after Secret Mage, there's a ton of different archetypes being brought. We're seeing Quest Mage, we're seeing Luna's Pocket Galaxy Reno Mage, we're seeing Reno Secret Mage, even Control Reno Mages where they just go full anti-aggro and cut the Luna's Pocket Galaxy Luna's Pocket Galaxy package. We also have two Mozaki Mages, which actually faced off in a mirror, and we'll be talking about that later. And then finally, we have a Spell Damage Mage brought by someone. Meanwhile, with Priest,
Nice.
the class is pretty much split between Reno Priest and Big Priest. For the most part, everyone goes for the traditional Reno builds where you want to go with Razakis, Machine Gun, and finish them off with Spawn of Shadows. But we do have a Quest Reno Priest, and a certain player always brings it. White Delight's Quest Reno Priest, where it is N'Zoth based. It's basically a fatigue build. Okay, so that's unique.
It's my favorite deck in all of Wild every single week.
That's
I love
awesome.
it. It's so good.
Yeah, so beyond that, next up comes Warlock. We had Reno Lock taking the most popular spot for Warlock, 26 over 17 Dark Layers. Okay, outside of that, we have a single discard, but Warlock is pretty much settled between Reno Lock and Dark Layer builds. Okay, Dark Layer is mostly settled among the community, but Reno Lock builds have been varying a ton. Okay, right now we're seeing a split between an anti-aggro build where people will focus on big demons and try to get to their Archwitch Willow turn and then finish off opponents with Gul'dan. Other people are going for the Ticketus route, where they just want to play Ticketus with Bran, mill a bunch of cards, and win that way. So very interesting takes on both ends there. After that, we have Rogue, Kingsbane being the most popular archetype. Odd Rogue coming next, 22 to 16. And we also have an aggro rogue with hook scimitars and a single mill rogue used in a target lineup, I believe. After Rogue, we have Warrior as the next most popular class. This one is also split into two archetypes primarily. Odd at 17, followed by Pirate Warrior. Odd Warrior is doing very well, surprisingly, in terms of popularity. It feels like due to the aggressive nature of the meta this season, Odd Warrior has been very popular for people. Beyond those two, though, we have an ETC Warrior, we have two Galakron Warriors, and we have a Dead Man's Hand Warrior. Someone always brings Dead Man's Hand Warrior. I don't know how or why, but there's always a single Dead Man's Hand Warrior, and it's never the same person.
Interesting.
So, yeah, beyond that, we have Druid having 23 brings with 11 Jade Druids, Aggro Druids, a Togwild Druid, and a Token Druid. 11 Shamans. So 1 even. 5 Reno Shamans. That's the most Reno Shamans I've seen all season long. 4 Big Shamans and a single Odd Shaman, which has been brought by one person quite a bit. 20 Paladins, 16 Odd Paladins, but the rest were split among Murloc, Clown, Reno, and Libram Paladins. That Reno Paladin won, by the way.
Was the Murloc Paladin Maxibon?
It was. Maxi loves his Murlocs.
Nice.
So, and then finally, between Demon Hunter and Hunter, we have 4 Demon Hunter brings with 3 Odd and 1 Soul Demon Hunter, and 3 Hunter brings with a Reno Hunter, an even Reno Hunter, and then Tonk. Tonks, guys. Tonk stonks.
Nice. Tonk stonks. Well, hey, one of the things I love the most about Wild and our Wild series is just how much variety we consistently have, even on just a week-to-week basis. The meta goes all over the place. Sometimes you just have players that really like something, and even if it's not super viable, they have a lot of experience with it, or they just really enjoy it, so they bring it. And it's a meta that is always shifting, it seems.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things that keeps Wild fresh and keeps content coming for it. Everyone loves when metas can move around and shift around, and that's exactly what happens.
Yeah. Well, with that, we are going to move on into a recap of the Green Conference. Let's get Green up on the screen here. And was it ever any surprise to any of you who have been watching this show? Everyone's a winner is still up at the top, like they have been all season long. 7-0, 144 points, 20 points per week. This team is unstoppable. Look at the points in their matchup, 20-6. Can anybody bring this team down? It's insane. But enough about everyone's a winner. There are other teams in this conference that are competing. Of course, the top four will make playoffs at the end of the season. And right now, that is looking like F2L Viridian has a very solid hold on the 2 spot. We have Hair Club moving up with a strong performance this week that we're actually covering in the Brown Conference. Entertainers has hit kind of a stride lately. They were hovering down at the bottom, and now they've worked their way into the number 4. If the playoffs started today, they would actually be in. Patches Payback a little bit on the backslide. Made in Heaven and Wild THL Fanatics struggling this season, but there's still room for Patches and Made in Heaven likely to make a late playoff push. Wild THL Fanatics, I'm not sure what the math is on it, but it would require a whole lot, I think, to have any real chance at a playoff conversation at this point. With that, we will start off. Everyone's a winner versus Made in Heaven. Leumer, can you talk to me about this matchup? What's going on? What's the deal with this team? They just totally unstoppable or what?
I'm gonna say they're close. They are close to totally unstoppable. I think they've got a couple teams that are in contention with them, but they are definitely the front runners as we move into the playoff picture for the Wild series. I mean, what else are you gonna say about 6J? 7-0. 3-2 over Snake Fods. It was close this week, but it doesn't matter. He still brings it home. Important to note as well that we had 2 sweeps this week on the side of Battle Tagger and Absolute, but winning 5 games against any team is impressive. And I'm just gonna say that I think they are the top runner going into playoffs, just from a pure points and outside perspective. Without even looking at any of the players, just looking at math and statistics, we can see that they are the people to watch out for going into playoffs. So definitely keep them on your radar. And Made in
Absolutely.
Heaven, I mean, you did your best this week, brought 5 mages. Very interesting to note, everyone's winner brought 1 mage, and it was on Hazer in that bottom seed there. So maybe they are a little bit ahead of the meta for kicking out secret mage from their lineups.
Yeah, that is surprising. Mage, the most brought class in all of Wild, but the number 1 team in all of Wild, barely bringing any mages. And then in the next match, we have F2L Viridian versus Patches Payback. A strong 17-10 victory for F2L. Marty, can you tell me what happened in this match here?
So, yeah, I kind of said, guys, this is what the other team likes to bring. Do what you want and go nuts. And kind of worked. Set C was a fantastic replacement. Really brought it to Neji. 3-2 for Neji over there. It was very close. Neji decided, I'm going to go with my old lineup. I had a lot of fun with slow decks for once. So let me stick to that just for one more week. Worked out. Ceci, we noticed, just brings good decks. Okay, he likes his odd rogue, Kingsbane rogue, odd paladin, Reno priest, just the good stuff. You don't really have a way to counter that, so you go with what you know best. That being said, we also had Ultimate step in for Itachi. Itachi was very busy last week. He had 6 work days, so he decided to put all of his attention on his one playoff matchup and got subbed out of every other series. So we got our ultimate back in for this 1 week. Itachi will unfortunately be coming back, but we want to thank Ultimate for coming in and getting a 3-1 win over Lefty. And he really helped us out in getting a dominant win over Padge's Payback, who definitely isn't a bad team either.
Nice. Yeah, and it looks like Green Conference is starting to settle into our playoff teams. There's going to be a bit of a race in, looks like the 3 through 6 spot right now, but the top two seem pretty decided. The rest will be interesting to see how it shakes out in the weeks to come. As we move on to Brown Conference, we actually are going to start off talking about one of those green teams here as well, Hair Club, in a close match. Let's get this one up on the screen, and we're going to start with the conference and the picture as it looks right now from the top down. Hey Loser still holding that top spot. They took it either a week or 2 weeks ago and have been hanging on to it. Bash Bros 2 very much on the rise, almost overtaking Hey Loser in the top spot and making it very competitive. A Noyo team was holding the top spot recently as well, only very recently got eclipsed by these other two teams, but a strong amount of points right now, very much a contender for playoffs. And in the 4 spot, just barely, it was our runaway winner from the first 3 weeks, Seas of Cheese, slipping week after week, but still holding the playoff spot if it started today. Followed up by the teams who were just barely on the outside looking in with Mad Scientists, Twitch.tv/MTG Succulent, and Ghosts of Fell Screams Past, I believe, is almost certainly eliminated from playoff contention, but not eliminated from Ruin Your Hopes and Dreams contention, which is always fun. So we are going to start with the breakdown of Hey Loser versus Hair Club. Right back to you, Marty, actually, on this one. Can you talk to me about this match? It was so close. It literally can't get closer than a tie. And I think it's just two really good teams that are both likely playoff bound, just kind of, war of attrition here.
Yeah, so last night before Saloon, Ron and I were talking about this, and I said, Hey Loser and Hair Club are pretty much equivalent. And I hadn't even looked at the results yet. And as it turned out, they tied. So we had Memnarch versus Otters on stream. And that was an excellent match. I highly recommend you go check it out. We'll probably be discussing it a little bit more later. Won't say much else.
Nice.
Memnarch did take it over Otters. It was a very, very interesting match. And Otters actually brought a very spicy pick in Togwaggle Druid for that stream. So do check it out. Another thing of note, Skittles and Burnt were the 2 players in the Wild Series to bring Mozaki Mage. I thought we were going to see a Mozaki Mage mirror, but Burnt came in, decided to say, goodbye, Mozaki. I don't want you. Banned himself. So very unfortunate. Finally, we had White Delight, who couldn't get the win over Roni, but took a big risk with Reno Shaman this week. Reno Shaman was pretty popular and actually got a few wins. Unfortunately, White Delight wasn't one of those wins, but very interesting to see there was an uptick recently with it. So that being said, overall, I still think these teams are neck and neck. It's no surprise to me that they got a tie, and I would be very excited to see what would happen if they were to face each other again in the playoffs.
Yeah, easily could be a playoff preview that we're looking at here. One of these teams just needs to get one additional game somewhere to find that edge, so it'll be interesting to see. Also, of course, if we see a rematch between Keith Numbers and Rami, that would be extremely interesting to follow as well. Keith Numbers obviously taking a victory over Rami for Rami's first loss and winning Player of the Week in the process. So exciting stuff, and maybe we see a repeat. Moving on to the next and final match that we are highlighting from Wild this week. It is Bash Bros 2, Electric Boogaloo, taking a 20-7 victory over Ghosts of Fell Screams Pass. Leumer, can you break this one down here? Is there anything much deeper than a blowout win over a winless team?
You know what? There is actually there is much deeper than that, because if you look at Ghost of Fellscream, right, wild card is 5-2 on that team. Like that is an impressive score line, especially in the Wild series where competition tends to run pretty high. Being 5-2 is no snuff, but no one else on the team really has that kind of accolade, and that's surprising to me. And to me, that I don't know if this is true or not, but usually that spells, if the records are that team. Usually, you'll have at least 2 to 3 members of a team performing well, or at least 500 level if the communication is good on the team and you can bounce ideas off of each other. Um, so I think that might be a problem we're looking at. But when you're up against a team like Bash Bros, you just can't do that. You can't afford to do that because Bash Bros will punish you for it, and that's exactly what happened. And they just cemented themselves in the playoff picture. From I think they were fourth before they went all the way up. They cemented themselves so easily.
Yeah, really big victory for Bash Bros. They've been kind of on a tear lately, and it's looking like the playoff teams for Brown are starting to settle in. Although, I did want to ask you one more thing before we move on to player power rankings for Wild Series, which is our weekly dose of Leumer Smack Talk about Seas of Cheese. It's only an 8-point lead now over Mad Scientist. What can we expect from Seas of Cheese in the next few weeks? Is it all wins here on out?
I'm gonna be honest with you. Like we've been struggling. We've been struggling a little bit. We've been getting our wins. We've been getting our points, but we've been doing it in a fashion that's very awkward, not really together, not how they should be. We've been losing 3-2 pretty much every week that we've lost. And you know the shift since the Darkman races has really been hard for Seas of Cheese. And I think that uh, anyone else in the league would probably throw in the curtain at this point, but not us. We're coming back with confidence, strength, and all of the prosperity that you saw from the beginning 3 weeks of the season. We're making playoffs. We're going to make our name known. Don't worry about it. Go to the
Nice.
next point, RonMexico.
Love to hear it. All right, so let's put Wild player power rankings for Wild Series week, not 6, week 7. I should have updated that. We'll update. Um, but we have a new number 1 in the Wild Series for player power rankings, and I think we need to start spamming rigged again because you know what? I just got to start off by saying 6J is undefeated, but he's not number 1. Number 1, we've got Battle Tagger, 6-1, 19-5, 30 PAR, reclaiming that top spot. Number 2 is Quake Lord at 6-1, 28 PAR. Number 3, JJJ, that's 6Js, 7-0. Can't lose any match all season, but can lose the top spot in the player power rankings. Sorry, 6J. Moving on to number 4, we have Maxibon at 6-1. Corbett in the 5 spot at 6-1. Absolute 5-2 in the 6. MTG Squirrel at 6-1 in the 7, Rice Bowl at 6-1 in the 8, Rami at 5-1 in the 9, and rounding out your top 10, it is Neji Boston, our current leader in crossover player of the season. You'll notice I think Neji shows up in every single PPR. At least so far, we've seen him in all of them, and very strong season. Congratulations to that top 10 for your Wild Series. And what's interesting, we've got some new names here on this list for honorable mentions. I haven't seen a couple of these all season, so it's exciting to see. Jailstorm makes the list at 5-2. Duin following at 5-2. Sunday at 5-2. Wildcard 5-2. And rounding it out, of course, wasn't on this list early because he wasn't playing early, but became a permanent sub for Everyone's a Winner. Hazer is now 4-0 and might be on their way to the top 10 shortly, but for now, makes their first appearance on the honorable mentions. Congratulations to all of your Wild Series player power rankings players.
Just a quick note about Wild. Schoolstown Saturday is now dedicated itself to Wild matches. and you can catch Jailstorm and Duin as some of the possible casters that will rotate weekly. We had Jailstorm last week. I don't know who's going to make it this week, but if you're interested on your wild match, be on stream Saturday anytime from noon to 5 p.m., just DM me, LotusKnight, and we'll be happy to find a time for you.
Nice.
Yeah,
Love the
we'll
plug.
also
Definitely always make sure to reach out beyond stream.
Yeah, we'll also be looking to get a little bit more in depth with the Wild series on Monday or on Saturday, sorry, with a 30-minute Wild recap as well. So do tune in. We'll go through a little bit more than this. We'll have some debates, some matchup previews, some things to look forward to, and should be very exciting.
Nice. And for those of you who have followed Around the Saloon in previous weeks, it was once a question, who were we going to see finish the season out of all of the undefeated players in Wild that would end undefeated? Out of those players that were asked, only 6J remains. I think Battle Tagger was the most popular choice for who was going to wind up remaining undefeated. I can't remember if anyone picked 6J, but if they did, props.
Yeah, 6J having an incredible season. Absolutely incredible.
All right, and that will do it for our recap of the Wild Series for this week. Before we move on to Legacy Playoffs, we, of course, as always, have to do a rapid fire commercial for you. Because we want you to help continue to support our stream. So, as always, don't have much time. We got to go speedy, zoom, right into the commercial. Hey there, Twitch viewers. Have you subscribed to Team Hard Legends yet? No? Then make today the day to be a legend yourself and subscribe to our channel. This subscription will enable the THL team to help cover the various costs of operating our website, as well as improve the quality of our streams and content to our viewers. If you have Amazon Prime or Twitch Prime, you can actually subscribe to this channel for free. Subscribers look at a THL emoticon as well as the lovely THL chat badge. So hit that heart button and keep the notifications on to make sure you catch our team broadcasting live. We appreciate each and every one of you. Special note to our viewers, check out THL's other social media points of interest, our website, teamhardlegends.com. Follow us on Twitter at THL_HS. Join us on Discord at Team Hard Legends. Check out the THL PAL podcast for power rankings for all series wherever you find your podcasts. The true Hearth Legends of Selsaku continues to post all of our videos on our YouTube channel. Just search for Team Hearth Legends to catch everything previously recorded. You're, of course, watching us on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Team Hearth Legends, or possibly on our YouTube channel in the future. And for all your THL fanatics out there, there are THL shows every single day of the week. You can't go wrong tuning in at any time for some amazing Hearthstone-related content. Now back to the good part. And with that, that means we're right back to Legacy Meta. This is
we are.
very, very abbreviated meta report. I think actually the last week stats totaled what was there from the final week of regular season and added in the playoff ones. So I mean, it's always grain of salt as always with these meta reports, but probably even more so this week because it's playoffs and the sample size is far more limited. That being said, Demon Hunter, Druid, Paladin, Warrior, the most brought lineup here with a solid win rate. Demon Hunter, Paladin, Rogue, Warrior went undefeated in its 3 games. And we have just massive Paladin bans. 23 Paladin bans, 11 Warrior bans, basically nothing else banned. 1 Rogue, 1 Demon Hunter, if the stats are correct, which they may not be. But regardless, we know Paladin, as it was in Hero, enemy number 1 at the moment. What do we make of this Legacy playoff meta, guys?
Yeah,
I don't think it's a huge surprise. Taking into account Demon Hunter, Druid, Paladin, Warrior, and Demon Hunter, Paladin, Rogue, Warrior were the most common lineups. Definitely Paladin and Warrior should be the targets for bans. I'm a bit surprised at how poorly it is saying Mage performed, but I am not sure if that's true or not. And I'm also surprised at Shaman having good numbers, because Shaman on ladder is non-existent. But I think this shows this is a very diverse meta. As much as a lot of people, and I include myself on these, don't really like the current meta state a lot. I think there's something to be said about the amount of diversity and possibility.
Yeah. I like it for sure. We are seeing some interesting decisions being made, and maybe playoffs have an influence on that, or maybe there's just a little bit more to explore in Conquest than what you are expecting to see on Ladder.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, the meta report being very minimal here with playoffs involved. Let's not drag our feet on it, and let's go right into the playoffs themselves. We're going to start with the last week in Legacy Gold. We have your 4 Gold Legacy or Gold Conference Legacy teams up on the screen here for the logos. Foolish Madmen made playoffs, had a bye in the first round. We won't be covering a match because they afforded themselves the opportunity of not even having to play a match this week. ATL, F2L Red, and uh, Golden Common BTW all played matches this week. Golden Common we will cover in the silver section since they played against a silver team. But we're going to start off with Always Top Deck Lethal versus Amber Flight Gaming. LotusKnight, talk to me. Actually, you know what? You're the next match. Diamond, talk to me about Always Top Deck Lethal versus Amber Flight. What happened here?
AFG got rolled. Like, I know Itachi subbed out to play his match. He didn't even end up playing his match. He had no contest, Matty Ebbs. Just, I mean, if you look at the matches, like Nails is obviously insane for him versus Neji. Good match. And then I know I was talking to Fish. I was like, oh, good luck in playoffs. He's like, oh, we're already down to like 2-0. And I was like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah, it
So
was a
yeah.
rough opener for AFG. I know Fish's match was on stream and it was close, but
Mhm.
it was a tough run.
It's just it just didn't fall together. I guess this whole season it was kind of Fish and Neji kind of carrying. They both lost, and then the rest of the matches went the way of ATL. So yeah, I don't have much more to say. Paladin got banned a lot. That's really all I can say about this.
Yep. I mean, Paladin was getting banned across the board quite a bit. As we're looking at it, though, just really big congrats to ATL. They came in with a game plan. They did extremely well. Amber Flight had to kind of sneak into the playoffs. It was real close. They almost missed playoffs, but they were able to make it. And they did it on the back of extremely strong seasons from Neji Boston and Dr. Fish. And we're hoping the rest of the team would come through. It didn't pan out that way. And with Neji and Dr. Fish both losing, it was kind of curtains for AFG's season. So congrats to ATL, who will advance to the next round. With that, we're going to move on to the next match here. LotusKnight, talk to me about F2L Red versus Swallows That Follows. I'm sure, Leumer, you might have some thoughts too.
Well, 3 people here played in this match. FTL Red versus Follows and Follows was much tighter than I think any side would have thought. It all started when Big Ted 3-1 Rebobson right off the gates. Big Ted coming as a sub for Bill Snyder. And that was followed by me losing to Mayan 3-1 and Avi catching the lead 3-1 for the Swallows again. And it was just one match for the win. It was very tight, but Leumer and Veeps weren't able to catch up, and F2 Red ended up taking this really hot match, I think.
Yeah, this was close. I actually almost forgot that Marty is also on F2L Red because I was thinking, oh, he's not on the F2L non-wild team, and then I remembered, no, one of them you're not on, but the other one you are. Marty got a close, well, maybe not that close at 1-3. I don't know how the matches went. Was there anything interesting in your match versus Avi?
Yeah, so I played Nas Dormu in my Highlander Druid, and that Nas actually cost me the game against his Highlander Mage because I couldn't play Zephyrs to clear the board on time, and that meant he had lethal.
Oh,
Oh man.
Very unfortunate. Yeah, I did that to myself. So, but I do want to mention, I'm not actually just associated with F2O Red and the Wild team. I help with the pro team a lot. I kind of do a bunch of stuff in the back. I help them with all the prep, show them all the lineups, give them stats on different kinds of decks and all that, seeing how the conquest meta is forming, giving suggestions, all that good stuff. So
Nice. The power behind the throne.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to say as well, this match came down to a game 5 between me and Rotted. Like I said, we'd come back to it. Game 5 between me and Rotted. It was a druid. I was on the side of the druid. Rotted was on the side of the weapon rogue, and it came down to literally a one turn swing. I had a Savage Roar in hand that I drew off of Fungal Fortunes, and he had a like 10 or 11 attack weapon that was going to smack me in the face, and I was overloaded by 2 from a Lightning Bloom that I had to play the turn before, so I couldn't Savage Roar lethal, and he got the lethal off with a Deadly Poison and a Nitro Boost Poison. And yeah, really, really good series from F2L, and Rodden played that series super well. So shout out to him.
Nice. Yeah. Very close one. Could have gone either way. And congrats to F2L Red for advancing to the next round of the playoffs. We, of course, do have some overlap that we're going to see on the screen as we move on over to the Red Conference, because we have teams obviously playing each other cross conference. You see Swallows That Follows versus F2L Red at the bottom of your screen here as the representative from Red Conference that did not make it. And then we had a matchup between two Red Conference teams, Dirty Mike and the boys playing against Murgle Reborn. Team Trees, of course, was your other team that made it from the Red Conference and earned themselves a first round bye with their strong regular season performance. So we really just have Dirty Mike and the boys versus Murgle to break down for what we saw from Red. We're going to start off here. Marty, if you can talk to me about Dirty Mike versus Murgle Reborn. What happened here?
Man, I'm really bad at this muting thing. So this was a pretty dominant win for Dirty Mike and the boys versus Murgle Reborn. Unfortunately, we don't have results for one of the matches. Seems like that wasn't played out. But that being said, 13 points from Dirty Mike and the boys with this, with just 4 games played, really solid. That puts them at 124 points. Very good. Their top seed, Kasgard, losing 1-3 against Dabs. Pretty unfortunate. Lots of Paladin and Warrior bans here. Those were actually the only 2 classes banned. But outside of the top seed, the rest of Dirty Mike and the boys came through. Tony Montana taking a win 3-1 over Kylos Luna. Astro Frog 3-0 over Debs, getting a very crucial sweep. And Lefty taking a 3-1 win over Chewbacca. You'll love to see it if you're Dirty Mike.
I think that one was on stream as well, Lefty versus Shu. So exciting matches, and then obviously G-Kick didn't feel the need to play with Murgle already being eliminated and just no contest at the match. The PR management moves, of course, at the end of the season. Always
G-Kick's a
clever.
mastermind at this.
I know a lot of people picked people from Murgle for their the fantasy thing that Justin and Posca threw together, so it's kind of hard for those people to see that as well. With
Oh yeah,
everyone deciding to-
big blow to the fantasy teams and your chances at that amazing notebook that Justin posted in the Discord.
Yeah. So I think it's important to mention G-Kick actually no contested the final match against Surlos due to Murgle Reborn's playoff hopes disappearing with the other results.
Yeah.
So
Right, yeah,
thank you, Simon, for bringing that up.
The PR management move potentially is what it could have been there. But obviously, yeah, there's just no way that that Murgle could have won regardless of the outcome. So a lot of times we see that, especially in playoff matches, where players will just say, yeah, there's no point in playing here, so we're going to move on from it. And with that wraps up Red Conference. Congrats again to the playoff teams that made it: Team Trees, Dirty Mike and the boys, Murgle Reborn, and Swallows That Follows. And congrats to Dirty Mike and the boys on advancing to the next round, where, of course, Team Trees is also waiting to play one of these teams that has advanced. With that, we'll move on to Silver. And Silver, we have once again have a match that we've already covered here in Amberflight Gaming versus Always Top Deck Lethal at the bottom. Amberflight, of course, one of your representatives from Silver. We have Flame Pimps, who was in the #1 spot and earned themselves a first round bye. Meme Dream Team as well with the first round bye. Very strong performances in the regular season out of Silver Conference. And Dad Legend and Amberflight Gaming, the other two teams that made it from Silver, had to play this last week. And Dad Legend coming out with the victory in a closely fought one against Golden Common BTW from the Gold Conference. LotusKnight, can you talk to me about this match here? This looked like it really could have gone either way.
Yeah, this was a very tight match. Yellow Dart Yellow Dart won for that legend and was followed by Zayd or by your mom kid Ducharmo. Those three clutched the win against Golden Common, by the way, with Agent PWE and Mojo Powell winning for Golden Common. And this is just both of these teams are really strong, and it's a really good result. Just overall, an amazing match.
Yeah, congrats to Dad Legend there. I know Golden Common was a team that I kind of identified early in the season as one that I thought would have a real shot at making it pretty deep into playoffs. And Dad Legend, sorry Yellow Dart, I was kind of hating on him a little bit, but they really proved me wrong here. This team is always a contender. Never count out Dad Legend as they move on to the next round of the playoffs. But you know what? I haven't learned my lesson because I am still going to immediately count out Dad Legend as we move on to the next screen here where we look at our THL Legacy Playoffs for Season 17. This is the bracket we have for you so far. It is Golden Common BTW versus Dad Legend, with Dad Legend advancing. We'll now play Foolish Madmen. I'm sorry, I just can't pick Dad Legend to beat the team that hasn't lost all season and has like one of the most dominant performances in all of Legacy that we've pretty much ever seen. ATL getting that victory over Amberflight Gaming will advance and play Meme Dream Team, who has waited for them from the Silver Conference. We have Flame Pimps, who had their bye waiting in the wings, and they will be playing the winner of Dirty Mike versus Murgle Reborn, which has been Dirty Mike advancing to that second round. And finally, F2L Red picking up that close victory over Swallows that follows. They move on to the next round of the playoffs, and they will be facing Team Trees. And there you have your Legacy Playoffs bracket. We won't spend too much time on this because any more would be more of a preview thing, and that is going to be Tavern Talks Arena. But this is what we've got so far. I'll do one quick prediction, I suppose, just because Diamond is here with us and is the captain of Foolish Madmen. Diamond, your team losing it all?
Nope. Finals time.
Winning the title?
Vibes.
Yeah. I know
Nice.
Marty said on Saloon yesterday F12. I could see a Foolish versus F12 finals, a rematch from the regular season, and that'd be pretty cool
Ooh.
to see.
There's our
Gonna
prediction,
happen.
Marty. Is that what's happening? F2L
It's gonna happen.
versus Foolish Madmen.
Count on it.
Let's
Nice.
go.
All right. And that does it for our legacy recap from the week. We've got one final series to cover for you, which is Pro. We're going to dive into the Pro meta report. Let's get that one up on the screen here. And what we're seeing is the most common lineup this last week: Druid, Paladin, Priest, Warrior. Brought a total of 10 times. Pretty solid win rate. Close behind was Demon Hunter, Paladin, Priest, Warrior, although its win rate did not look as healthy. We are, as always, sort of conflicted with the meta report. I don't know how much is accurate being reported, but usually at least the bans are reasonably accurate. And we have a ton of priest bans. Priest and warrior are the top bans here. Paladin only slightly behind. Seems like these open deck list pro players aren't nearly as concerned about Paladin. And what we've been seeing kind of closer in line with, I think, the top of, you know, legend ladder and other things is priest has been identified as a really, really strong class that can do a lot of scary stuff. So it's getting a lot of bans here. Starting with Marty, I know you've done some meta report stuff for F2L specifically and just overall the pro meta. What kind of things are we looking at here in this pro meta? Oh, you may be on mute again.
You know, I'm really bad at this muting thing. I got 3 for.
All good, dude.
I was gonna say, you mentioned Paladin, but before we get into Paladin, I want to talk about the most popular class to bring, and that's Warrior. We had 82 people bringing Warrior, and it was pretty varied. Enrage is the most popular at 35 brings. Okay, it's actually the most popular archetype, just barely edging over a few others in the Pro Series last week. But beyond that, we have Control Warrior. Now, Control Warrior kind of lumps together Silas Warrior and just any sort of warrior with a controlling game plan. So sometimes you'll see Aviana, sometimes you'll see Deathwing at the top end, sometimes you'll just see Rattlegore. Okay, so things like that. That is what falls under Control. We have 20 of those this last week. Next up, we have Bomb Warrior at 18 brings. Bomb was actually surprisingly popular compared to previous weeks this week. Could be an answer to the Ramp Paladin that we've been seeing. Unsure, but we'll get to that later. And then finally, we have 6 ETC Warriors and 3 Big Warriors. ETC Warrior has been seeing a large drop. ETC in general just isn't really seeing a lot of play in a lot of these decks. Even in Rage Warrior, for the most part, has dropped ETC as a win condition. So people are focusing more on chargers there. Next up, now for the Paladin. We were talking about Ramp Paladin being a problem, but it's actually not the most popular Paladin archetype to be brought. Usually when people see Ramp Paladin, they ban it. But since not everyone is bringing it, we actually have fewer Paladin bans in Pro. So instead, we have 34 brings of the Librum Pen Paladin, okay, followed by 25 brings of that aforementioned Ramp Paladin. And then finally, we had 3 pure Paladins brought this last week. Next up, we have a tie for the third most popular class. This is between Priest and Rogue. So Rogue was pretty popular, specifically with World Kick. This was the second most popular class, second most popular deck, tied with Pen Paladin at 34 brings. Then we have Stealth Rogue. Stealth Aggro Rogue has been pretty popular. For the most part, people have been playing the meaty build with Pen Flingers. Very strong. Next up, the only other archetype we saw within Rogue was Secret Rogue. There were 6 of those. So on to Priest. Highlander Priest was the big one. 30 brings there, followed by Resurrect Priest, 12. And then for the last 2 decks, both had 7 brings. There was Control Priest, which is basically Highlander Priest, but with 2 ofs instead. So that has been less popular as time has gone on. And then we have a new one, Monsanto's Elucia Priest. 7 brings there. That was actually banned quite a bit. So keep an eye on that. It has a pretty polarizing matchup spread, but it does have a role in this Conquest meta. Beyond that, we have Demon Hunter split between 35 combo versions and 15 Soul Demon Hunters. No aggro Demon Hunter whatsoever. No mid-range, no outcast, none of that. And then Druid was the other popular class from this week with 44 brings. Mostly Token Druid, Clown Druid, and Treant Druid as well. Treant with 12 brings, Clown with 8. I want to mention Clown includes builds that don't actually include Carnival Clown. The distinction is that they run the... Hold on. They run... God, what was the card that was nerfed to... Guardian Animals. They run Guardian Animals, okay? And basically, those cards all together are pretty much the same deck, and a lot of them tend to run Survival of the Fittest and everything but Carnival Clowns when they play.
That's hilarious.
So they're just lumped in there. Okay, we also have
Clown Druid, but not Clown Druid. Got it.
Well, I'm bamboozling everyone. It's fine. Clowns. Just clowning around anyway. So we had 4 Highlander Druids and 2 Malygos Druids as well. Beyond that, Mage was actually not as popular as I was expecting it to be. 21 Mage brings, 2 Secret, 3 Highlander, 5 Mozaki, and then 11 spell damage mages. I expected more spell damage mage, but it's still early, so we'll see if that tends to blow up. Keep an eye on it. Beyond that, 16 Zoo Warlocks, 1 of Galakron, Quest, and Control Warlock, so a total 19 Warlocks brought. Then finally, we had 4 Highlander, 2 Face, and 1 Quest, and 3 Shamans, 1 aggro, 1 control, and 1 spell damage.
Nice. I gotta mention the Hunter brings was largely because of my team, actually, the unknown. My teammate Solo Jazz was testing out a little bit of Highlander Hunter recently, and was
Solo
like,
Jazz.
guys, I think it's reasonably viable again. And I was like, oh, you said the magic words, I'm bringing it.
I brought it. I won with it, Ron.
Yeah, I think
I
the
feel
data
it.
is a little bit wrong because it says total wins 1, and if you won with it and I won with it, then
Oh no, I'm not. I don't play in pro. I'm not that good. Calm down.
oh
Calm
man.
down. Just in general. I'm just talking about in
I
general.
don't know. Maybe my Hunter win is literally the only win that Hunter got this week, but that's fine. You know, I love Hunter, and sometimes Rexar just needs some representation. Okay. But yeah, clearly I should have just brought Mick Hunter, and that would have
100%.
been, you know,
The
that's the move
only
for next week.
viable
It's
Hunter
gonna
deck,
be just
actually.
flooded with Mick Highlander Hunter.
I'll be waiting for that Mick Hunter, and I'm looking forward to see it on these snapshots.
Oh god, maybe that's transfer students meme now that we're mathematically eliminated.
Just
Ooh,
bring Mick
Mm,
Hunter.
5
clever.
Mick Hunters?
I like
Win
it.
with Mick Hunter as well.
But yeah, that should do it for our pro meta as we move on to the week that was in the in the pro series. We're gonna start with the Black Conference, and we have a new number 1 for the boys. Has not lost all season. If you're looking at an undefeated record, you can probably guess the team might have Diamond involved somewhere. I don't see him on the player roster, but oh, there he is. He's the captain. Okay, so for the boys, 15-12 over Hype Horizon to take that top spot. Just before we dive into the match itself, I want to run through the teams on the screen here for what we're seeing for playoff contenders right now for the boys in a very strong first place. Hype Horizon closely behind these teams, very likely to make it in. Top 4, of course, is what makes it from each conference for pro. Aeon at 119 and Yasharaj's Clown College at 115. These top 4 are holding a pretty solid gap over the rest of the field. I think we have our 4 clear playoff front runners in black, and then we have all the other teams that are fighting, and it is just a mess of teams very close to the same point total. Swagoi Red with 95, Swagoi Black with 95, The Unknown with 92, Cirque du Soul Fragment with 92, Bad to the Bone with 90, and then things start to fall off a bit with Glockgora at 82 and Illini Esports. Again, I haven't done the math, but probably eliminated, I would expect, at 74, and now getting to play that ever so fun role of ruin other teams' hopes and dreams. But this looks to be very likely the playoff picture we're seeing for Black Conference. These top 4 teams have kind of a stranglehold. Um, to start off with the breakdown of our highlighted matches last week, Diamond for the boys on a tear. They can't lose. These points per week are insane. Probably would have had that top spot sooner without an ill-timed bye. Talk me through this match. What happened here against the defending champs?
Yeah, we were just 1 point behind them last week, and it was close. I think every time we played them last season, we also won, but it's always fun to play Hyperice. I think the team also likes playing them because it's like, not saying we've had like an easy time so far, but they're the one team in our roster. It's like, all right, when are we playing Hyperice? And we know what's coming. And we're like, okay, it's just sick right after our bye, 2 weeks after. And looking at the match, Shep actually is not undefeated anymore. McBannerface, who's in chat, took him down in a 5-game series, very close, along with Buck Nasty, who was the 1 seed last season, 3-2. So now they're tied. So potentially Buck might return to the 1 seed. Davs lost to D Money, but he also, I don't know if anyone see, there was a YouTube clip of him high rolling D Money on his stream. And our player of the week, Super Chicken, got a win, which clutched out the week for us against Cool Kid. And then Faux Show got a 3-1 over Ox. And then all the mages, interesting fact, were all spell damage mage, which I think people, 3 from my team and 1 from Hyperizon. The team's liking that list a lot.
The
And there's a
spicy new move.
couple ramp paladins mixed in there, with Shep opting for the pen paladin this time. Or actually, a couple people opting for the pen paladin, with Chicken and Ox going for ramp. And yeah,
Nice.
so always fun to play Hyperizon. Maybe we get to play him in playoffs this time. I know last time our playoff run was kind of a bit short, but yeah, that's pretty much it. GG's.
Awesome. Yeah, I love when I get to change the graphic up at the top left. It almost happened. Well, we'll get to that shortly in the other conference. But um, before we get to pink, let's talk about Yasharaj's Clown College versus Glock Gora, another really close one. And I think this was huge for Yasharaj's Clown College as a way to just climb up there and kind of grab that foothold for top four for playoffs. Leumer, can you talk to me about this match and what happened here?
Yeah, this was a super close one. Looking at Glocgora's lineup, right? You would not particularly expect them to get 13 points this week, but they did pull it off. Even though Yasiraj's Clown College won the week, we can look at the side of Glocgora and definitely say that they kept it as close as they possibly could, which is great when you're looking at Pro Series. Always love to see competitive matches over in the Pro Series. Nice Jushal taking it down 3-1. We're seeing a lot of priest bands coming out, which is a little bit surprising to me, but it makes a lot of sense when you look at the lineups, and especially the fact that Yasiraj's Clown College brought 5 priests this week, only rivaled by their 5 warriors. So very interesting to note, and I'm wondering if we're going to see Priest sneak back in for the playoff picture.
Yeah, very uniform looking lineup from Yasharaj's Clown College, at least class-wise. Archetypes could have been a bit different. Of course, we don't dive that deep into the lineups for right now.
Well, hold on,
Unless, of
hold on,
course,
hold on,
Marty has it in front of
hold
him.
on. I do. Someone isn't reading the notes because we have those archetypes
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
my bad.
notes. Yes, we do. So there was actually quite a bit of variation among those priests brought by both classes. We had 3 combo demon hunters from Clown College, only 1 soul demon hunter with Neji playing that. And then a few of those priests, we have 2 Elusia priests, 3 Elusia priests, 3 Highlander priests, and 2 Resurrect priests. So they're all over the place between both teams.
Nice. So variety on the surface, dig deeper or sorry, uniform on the surface, dig deeper and there's variety. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, and very closely fought. Glockora seems to me to be a team that looked strong in the preseason, has a strong roster, and just for whatever reason, things are just barely not working out. You know, taking close losses against very good teams, but haven't been able to get over the hump. And it's starting to look like it's a better luck next season for them. But should be proud of the performance in this match, and congrats again to those teams that are holding strong up at the top. I think Black Conference is pretty much coming together. With that, we will move on to pink. And what do you know? I'm hungry again. It's that team. They're always number one. It's Popeye's spicy chicken sandwich. They just wire to wire so far have held this top spot, but look at the standings. 1 point is all that separated them. It came down to an Honest Zabe victory over Rescue Wabbit on stream. I think it was Sunday night, if I recall correctly. And if Zabe had not actually taken that victory, Faction would be your new number one in pink. But Popeye's spicy chicken sandwich, too spicy, too strong, still holding the top spot, followed extremely closely by Faction. Next up, of course, Tap Washers and F2L tied for the number 3 spot, rounding out your top 4 for who would make it if the playoffs started today. very close behind them, we have Sheepies at 111, Sushi Rats at 105, and then you start to see that gap widen a bit for teams that need a lot of work to make it in. Due Process at 95, Attack Mode 92, Corrupted Clown Fiesta 91, NPH at 87, and Poem Locked and Loaded, one of those teams where I expect they're playing Dream Killer now at 72 points and still looking for that first victory on the season. So we're going to start with this match here, Popeye's Spicy Chicken Sandwich versus F2L. You can call it a bit of an upset, maybe. I mean, these teams are both extremely strong, but Popeye's barely lost all season, but 14-12. Marty, talk to me about this match. Big win for F2L here.
Talking about this before. This was not an upset to me. I know people are like Popeye's spicy chicken sandwich is number one, but F2L really shouldn't be that far behind. Yeah, they started 1 and 2 at first, but look at them now. They are at the top, really. Just 5 wins in a row. So you really can't sleep on them. It all started with Chain Magician coming in with an anti-Enrage Warrior lineup against Mayan. Mayanadon was pretty salty about it. I spoke to him after. But it worked out well for Chief. The rest of the team just decided to kind of follow along those lines and try to counter Popeyes as well. And we had exactly the results that we expected, pretty much. So the 12-14 win was exactly what we were hoping for.
Nice. Well, I think McBanterface probably brings up the most relevant point, though, in chat here. Mick lost because he didn't bring his hunter. A foolish mistake that cost his team the week against F2L. I'm sure he won't make that mistake again in the future.
Yeah, the one thing, there's also a few things I want to mention with these deck lists. For everyone, they brought Pen Paladin, so that is strictly to target warrior. Clown Druid was also a big bring for these guys. Rescue Wabbit, Berserk, both bringing Clown Druid. Okay, Chain Magician coming in with Highlander Druid, the one that he used for the Master's Tour qualifier. That worked for him too. Okay, and we saw Popeyes doing something similar with the lower seats. 2 Clown Druids there and a Token Druid as well. But it just really didn't work out as well. Wet Goose was able to get the win over Ariana 20. I do think that's because they had the Druid over the Spell Damage Mage. Druid is generally favored there. But otherwise, F2L really taken advantage of scouting the opponents and their lineups. So, well-deserved win from there.
Nice. All right, and then our final match in the Pink Conference that we're highlighting, and our final match to review for this week, Sheepies versus No Pros here. A big 16-12 for Sheepies, who has been one of the quietest teams I think I've ever seen with such a strong record so far. I may have mentioned this on a previous show, but I don't feel like they've garnered a whole lot of recognition so far this season, but they have started to really pick up steam. LotusKnight, can you talk to me about this match here? What went down between Sheepies versus NPH?
Yeah, so Sheepies, I completely agree with you. This was a team I barely noticed existed. And then when looking at the matches for today, I'm like, wait, how is this team fifth and with a really good record? 111, they're chasing some of the best teams in Pink right now. And now I'm going to mess up all these names. Azonix lost to PW 2-3. Always Lethal beat your mom kid 3-2. Science Sheepies 3-1 Skittles. Micah's 3-1 based, and Pasca won 3-2 against 11 and me to close the match. But Sheepies beating NPH. A very tight match. You can see a lot of points in both teams. The loser taking 12 is quite a bit. And some interesting bans. Everyone's banning either Priest, Demon Hunter, or Warlock, other than the 2 Warrior bans. And I don't think we see this as much. No Paladin bans, no Druid bans. This is quite interesting.
Yeah, this contributed quite a bit to our change in the meta report with all those priest bans being up at the top. Not something we've seen lately, but maybe signs of things to come in pro meta. Should be interesting to track.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The interesting
Yeah.
thing is that it is not a single kind of priest that's being banned. We're seeing all different priests being banned. Only one priest was brought, and that was from Mycus, but that wasn't banned. Every other priest, though, saw a ban. Highlander priest, Resurrect. One Lucia priest brought in this matchup here was banned. So priest has been taking up a lot of the bans this week. Very interesting. It doesn't really matter the archetype, so it's something to definitely keep an eye on.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. With that, that wraps up our pro conference recap. We, of course, have our player power rankings next to cover. Let's get this one up on the screen here. And as always lately, Flamekiller just completely on a tear. As far as I know, the only remaining undefeated player in Pro Series. I haven't looked too closely at that, so don't hold me to it, but I'm pretty sure they're the only undefeated. 7-0, 21-8, 35 PAR. Coming up next at number 2, Harash at 6-2. Honest Zabe in the 3 spot at 7-1. We were seeing a lot of Black Conference dominance early, but this is 3 from Pink at the top 3. Very interesting developments. Number 4, we've got Molestar at 6-2. Buck Nasty ZB at 6-1 in the 5. Brian O'Brien at number 6 at 6-1. Mick Banterface at number 7 at 6-2. Revy at 5-2 in the number 8 spot. RonMexico, hey, that's me, 5-2 in the number 9. And number 10 to round it out, we have German Shep at 6-1. Spam your rigged. I have no idea how I'm ahead of German Shep. I think every single metric there he has ahead of me. 6-1, better record, yeah.
Bro,
Better
you
game
lose
score,
one game.
Hey, just get better PAR, easy. Uh, and
Just
with that,
one.
we'll move on to the honorable mentions. Heat Shock, buys apparently hurt you a whole lot too. Heat Shock was in our top 10, and then he had a buy, so he bounced out into the honorable mentions. 6-1 for Heat Shock there. To lead off honorable mentions, we have some board members in Donde at 5-2 and Ridiculous Hat at 5-2. D Money making his first appearance in the honorable mentions at 5-1. And finally, to round us out, Rescue Wabbit at 5-2. Congratulations to all of these players who have made the player power rankings. Just as always, a list of very, very incredible players and RonMexico.
Mhm.
But any last things that we want to say about Pro Series before we get to our final segments where we're going to run through, of course, our clip of the week and RNG cards of the week, or RNG card of the week.
The
Well,
race.
there's still quite a few weeks of pro, so we're still going to be talking about it for quite a while.
True. Yeah, there's a good ways to go still. Nothing's totally decided. It's looking more and more like the top 4 from each conference are going to hold strong, but there's a very interesting race in Pink, and I don't know, with a few shakeups over a couple weeks, maybe we see some differences in the Black Conference. So we'll bring it on
You
back
telling me there's a chance?
Yeah,
to our
there's
caster screen here. We've got one last thing to cover for you this week, which is our RNG card of the week that's going to lead us into our highlight clip. Let's throw it on up here. RNG card of the week. It is King Togwaggle. This was brought in wild in a very interesting lineup. Um, Marty, tell me again, who was it that brought the Togwaggle Druid?
So on Schoolstone, we had Memnarch versus Otters, and Otters had brought a Togwaggle Druid to try to counter Memnarch's Reno Priests.
That's right. And
Unfortunately,
it almost worked. He did get to take the priest deck and give the priest his druid deck, but as you'll see in the highlight, it didn't quite go as planned. Let's get this up on here.
He has to spend 10 mana and just hero powers this turn to kill. So yeah. He'll set up 2-turn though, hopefully. He doesn't know that Otter's top deck the Malfurion here, so he's going to try as much as he can.
Yeah.
Ooh, actually, that Lightning Bloom does it, doesn't it?
It's close. Yeah, the Lightning Bloom allows him to play
I think
out.
he's a one-off.
Then he
Now
goes.
he's
Then he
one-off.
can in the biology project. helps.
Oh yeah, Biology Project is Innervate as well. No, maybe
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, it looks like it just looks like he's gonna get there on the pings. Gonna play Lightning Bloom. Gonna ping it. They get to play
Wow.
the
Yeah.
Spellstone.
No, it's exact lethal.
Memnarch gets exact lethal, and that's gonna do it. Memnarch wins.
Yeah, Memnarch steals the game with the Anduin hero power.
Yeah.
Enough mana generation from the Druid deck to close it out there.
Yes.
So
he has to spend
the best laid plans there just going awry as Otter's Druid kind of backfired on him. The Tog gave his opponent the Druid deck, and then the Druid deck happens to run ramp and other things that allow Priest to mana cheat and find enough pings to get there right before the Malfurion too. Kind of a
really,
strange
really
occurrence.
impressive play.
Yeah, but nicely
You didn't
done
watch
from
that.
Memnarch there. Very well played to take that victory, and that is, of course, our clip of the week. Stay tuned to all of the upcoming shows as well. Of course, you never know when another crazy clip like that might come our way,
Yeah.
and we see more fireworks. With that, that is all we have for you for our show for tonight. We're going to close things out with final words. We're going to start up at the top left with Diamond. Thanks again for joining the show. Hope you had a good time coming back. I know we won't be seeing too much of you over the next few weeks, but anytime you have a break, you're welcome. Floor is yours. Go ahead, final words.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's always fun to do this. I feel like the next time I come on is if one of my teams wins the championship, most likely.
Nice.
Or if I get another break. And I don't know if it's spoiled, but I'm going to be on tomorrow on Tavern Talk, which is the predictions show. So we're going to predict who might make hero playoffs and who's going to win legacy playoffs. I might be a bit biased in my choosings, but
Never
that's
biased.
how it goes on the shows. Never biased.
Literally never seen Diamond be biased before. So tune in tomorrow to find out.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Diamond. Next up, Leumer, final words for the show tonight. Take it away, bud.
Yeah, really, really excited to be here. As always, loved doing what we do on this show. Make sure you guys tune in the rest of the week, especially with playoffs happening in Legacy and playoffs so close in the other series. There is never a better time to get in on the THL action.
Nice. All right. Then up at the top right, Marty, finally back after a brief little break. Love to have you back, man. Take it away, final words.
Yeah, it's been really great coming back. I'm hoping I can stick around every week now from here on out. So it shouldn't be a problem anymore, and you'll be seeing my face much more often on the show.
Nice. Nice. All right.
we love that.
Next up, LotusKnight, Dr. LotusKnight. I'm sure I might hear something about Schoolstone prediction. Go ahead, final words on the night.
Well, Schoolstone's schedule isn't set yet, so if you would like to be on Schoolstone, you should DM me. Right now, the match we have is really good. We have Avi versus Nice Jewish Owl for Pro on Sunday, but if you're interested in playing Saturday for Wild, Sunday for other series, do DM me. I'm going to end by saying something unexpected here. And let me make sure I'm saying it right. I am just going to say, will you be ready?
Nice. Yeah, the reference to what the new announcement coming at BlizzCon soon. I guess Hearthstone's next expansion or something to that effect.
Quill Boars. It's all Quill Boars. Every
It's
card.
all Quill Boars. Nice.
You
All right, but that is our show. I, of course, am your host, RonMexico. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We will be back next Tuesday, as always, and stay tuned for your upcoming exciting shows in the next few days and so on as we loop back around. We have Tavern Talk tomorrow on Wednesday at 9 p.m. We have match shows for you on Thursday, on Friday, on Saturday, on Sunday, and we've got Around the Saloon on Monday, which brings you back to Tuesday with us here at Hearthcenter. From all of us, hope you have a great night. Take care.
Bye.